Rant Cast. It's the Rant Cast PodCast. All right, welcome. Of course, it's not Uncle Zargon this time. It's your old pal Kurgan here on the Rant Cast PodCast.
Excuse me, Zargorn?
Zargorn? Nope, never heard of the guy. Also, we've got an extra special guest with us today. Go ahead and introduce yourself there.
Me?
Ha! Gotcha. Okay, so of course we've got the StrangeBus, and we've also got Karningul.
Hello.
And I think on a past Rantcast, we had your volume turned up to like 200%, and I think I was at like 100. So can't have anybody upstaging me. So I adjusted the volume a little bit. But anyway, welcome guys, and shout out to Karl Casey at White Bat Audio, of course, for the awesome music. And we'll go ahead and douse the flames, because this is episode 13 of the Rantcast. Lucky number 13. Oh, and look at that. Look at the topics. HeroQuest and Star Wars. Well, we've got some other things. StrangeBus, we haven't seen you in a little while. You want to let us know kind of what you've been doing? And
Yeah, I've pretty much been in Wisconsin the past week. So, just on travel for my job. So I'm a technician. So I go out and I fix things at certain casinos.
You're good at fixing machines.
Computer-related machines. But can't really get into too much detail. But if something breaks, or if they need help, depending on the requirements, I go out there and I fix it. And right now I'm kind of through the beginning of my job, so they sent me out here for onboarding and training and to see how well I knew the job just to begin with. So turns out I do. I know how to do stuff. But
I'm just
Doing stuff is good.
Whereabouts in Wisconsin? So I'm stationed. I'm stationed in Madison. This is the capital. I'm stationed in Madison. So.
Bro, I'm in Madison.
Oh, you are? Awesome.
Yep.
And I am also, well, I won't say.
You're lying.
Okay.
Wait.
So
What's the name of the state you're in?
Wisconsin.
Okay, he's not from there.
It's Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Oh yeah. I don't have the accent. My wife has it a little bit. It's kind of going away, but she was here for the longest time. I was trying to bring her with me, but turns out my travel time was different than when she came down here with the kids. So I came down here by myself, and me being a native Iowan, I was freaked out because of all the cross traffic and the lanes that they had at first. So, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is a city, an actual city? Oh, so like I freaked out for a minute. I'm used to it now, but like it was just funny. I have a lot of stories to tell about how I probably pissed some people off with my Iowan driving and my like lack of knowledge of cross traffic and all that stuff. So, but it's been a fun experience. I've enjoyed it so far. So,
wherever you go, that's where the people don't know how to drive.
yeah, I mean, somebody thought that I was from, well, because the rental I drive has Illinois plates, so I got looked at real funny when I accidentally cut somebody off trying to turn somewhere and realized I was in the wrong lane, and I'm pretty sure they cussed at me about how I was an Illinois driver. Am I at Ho-Chunk then? I did visit Ho-Chunk, yes. So you probably won't see me. If you're going there or have been there, you probably won't see me again. I was there for the last 2 days. but this is my last day here. I'll be going back home tomorrow morning. So
Nah, I don't gamble.
I think your video is frozen.
Is
By the way, thanks to Elviler for the great Rantcast border. I know it took me a while to find it again. See, this is why you need to host the show, but you got work to do. I'm glad you could make it though, in spite of what you had to do.
Yeah, I am checking me, but I might have to refresh me then. Kurgan's glitching and going a bit. Okay.
Always glitching.
I don't know. I didn't notice any problem with Kurgan. Although.
Yeah, good old Ribby. Robotic, huh?
Yeah,
robotic.
Are the robots.
Little
bit.
I mean, he certainly has been known to do that in the past, so I don't know.
Next level.
Let me try something real quick. It might help.
Maybe I could try some alchemy. Video was fine.
My video was fine.
His video was fine.
Okay.
Like max headroom on my side. Nah, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, I can't tell. Mine looks frozen too, but I can't. Like I said, I can't tell. But anyway, like I was saying before, it's been a fun experience, and yeah.
Oh. It's good to know that.
Got to learn the ins and outs of Ho-Chunk and
going places.
Like I said, yeah, maybe next time I'm down here, I might be in Potawatomi. Who knows? Oh. That's not what you're here for. You're here for the HeroQuest Power Hour.
See, didn't want to say it. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy what we do because of the passion and the emotion that comes out when we talk about stuff we really care about. And it's fun going back and forth, bouncing ideas off. But yeah, and it's a break from all the HeroQuest stuff, but we still get to talk a little bit of HeroQuest in there too.
Yeah.
Ribby says, "Hells to the yeah."
I've got a couple things, but mostly I've been kind of away from all the updates. So, pretty much just what I've been doing here, and then what's been going on with, yeah, pretty much Star Wars, and then I've got some. We were talking Star Trek not too earlier today, so
yeah,
that might be kind of a nice topic.
I'm gonna sound like some creepy Hollywood guy. Give us a big smile. Let's put a smile on that face. If Jack Nicholson was in The Dark Knight.
I hope it freezes on that.
Yes. Oh, and now it works. Now it works. Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, all right. Welcome to the Rant Cast, where we're always glitching out. So, in the world of HeroQuest, first of all, I am going to GenCon this year. Well, it's the first time I've ever gone. I was just trying to think to myself, why would I go to this convention? I already know, and I will already know what they're going to be talking about. Rise of the Dread Moon, the new expansion, is coming out on the 17th or maybe the 15th, but we'll know all about it once August 3rd rolls around. So why would I even go? Well, first of all, a friend invited me, so it's like, okay, that's a good thing. He's a big D&D guy, and I'm not. So I'm like, okay, well, so you're going to be doing all this D&D stuff, and I mean, we're going to hang out, but I'll be looking for other stuff. But I do know at least one other member of the community, I'm not going to call him out, is going to be there. So it's like, okay, well, hey, one other fan I can meet, and who knows? I mean, there's all these HeroQuest booths and games going on, and they're all sold out, I think, except for one. But there should be plenty to do just walking around the convention, just looking at stuff, looking for the free swag. Stop by the Avalon Hill booth and annoy them a little bit until they throw me out. I'm actually having a few T-shirts printed, and it's like, okay, so this will be the test. So they'll be like, nope, we'll totally sue you if you try to sell that. Okay, never mind. Good to know. I'll tell the guy
Yeah,
that
no
I bought this
hawking
from.
your third-party merchandise here,
Yeah, rip off. And speaking of bootlegs or questionable things, so I'm not trying to call anybody out here, but I think everybody pretty much knows it's an open secret that homebrew HeroQuest stuff has been out there. Not just homebrew stuff, but people selling HeroQuest stuff. And so far, Avalon Hill through uh, Hasbro has allowed them to be pretty forgiving as far as that goes. Like they haven't been going after people. They've just said, "Hey, can you change the name to something else?" So I think there was a guy selling just booklets of HeroQuest adventures that he'd written, and he just was calling it HeroQuest Adventures, and they made him change the name. So he changed it to Sunday Quest. And these are requests that he'd written. There was another guy who basically just found other people's stuff and just like copied it and sold it, and that guy's not as cool. But again, he changed the name and called it like Dungeons Quest or something. So people have done stuff like that. So I think if I have a T-shirt that says HeroQuest fans and it's HeroQuest fans, it's not HeroQuest with the big logo, I can get away with it. Different artwork, but just the fact that hey, it's this 2-bit operation that we're running here that's growing by the day. Ribby says I really wanted to go to GenCon, but I have a big Yellowstone trip. Well, Yellowstone, come on, do that trip in a couple weeks. I couldn't justify the time off. Yeah, well, the GenCon claims to be the best 4 days of gaming, but then I was thinking to myself, why would I pay all this money, drive all this way, fight all this traffic and crowds and all this just to play some games, something I could do at my local game shop or at home. But just the idea of being there and like being a reporter, like that excites me because I remember way back in the day, like 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, I went to E3 and it was like, I'm just a regular guy. I'm not some big, you know, uh, high level, blogger or something. I'm just like, oh, here's some pictures I took. Here's some information I got. Here you go. You never know. You might get lucky. Just getting that unfiltered thing. Because, yeah, you've got influencers who get access and they get, the official, company line. And here's what you can say and here's what you can't say. And maybe you have to sign an NDA or something. And I don't know. It's more like guerrilla reporting. So, Rant Cast. Oh, JoeKozier's here. Excellent. Welcome. The rip might kick my ass and kill me on the spot. What? Oh. So anyway, yeah.
That's the Yellowstone TV show reference. Sorry.
Oh, I've never seen it. My bad. Well, friends of mine have talked it up, so yeah. So anyway, Gen Con, but yeah, all that stuff that we're hearing about now, everybody is wondering about Rise of the Dread Moon. We're gonna know all that stuff already. That's gonna be old hat by the time the convention happens. They are having a prequel quest over there. So it's like, okay, so they created little original stuff. So maybe I'll get to observe that and be like, hey guys, this is what it is, just a few minutes before they release it or before somebody else does the exclusive and gets way more views. But I'm not about the views. I mean, views are nice, but I just figure, we're a fan community. We're gonna be honest with each other and stick together, do what we do.
Tell us if they dropped the ball big time.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, the whole world is going to know about Rise of the Dread Moon. And the thing is, my thought, and I know I watched Amalgamash's stream, well, I guess I didn't watch it live, so it wasn't truly a stream, but his YouTube video where he was recovering from a cold, and still people were like, man, this guy's got such a great voice. And I agree with him. Welcome, brave adventurers. It's like, okay, it doesn't quite sound as good, but
brave adventurers.
Yeah, I see. So see, when he's back to 100% strength, that's what it's going to sound like. Avalon Bill. So, anyway, he was, the running joke is that I'm the negative one. I'm the guy that's always like looking at the dark side of things. Whereas Amalgamash is always the one, sticking up for it's like, oh, look on the bright side. It could be this, it could be that. And he was like, here's the stuff that I see that could go wrong, And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, seeing a different side of him. But yeah, I think we both and a lot of people would agree if Rise of the Dread Moon like flops, that could put a dent in the whole situation. Like at the same time though, Hasbro, I mean, they have enough money that they can bounce back from a lot of things. I mean, they can have a debacle with D&D. They can have a debacle with Magic the Gathering, and they can lose like lots of fans and still be doing okay. But there's
Or
got to be
HeroScape.
HeroScape, yeah. There's got to be a breaking point. But HeroScape flops in the HasLab campaign, and then they find a way to bring it back. So
Exactly.
if Rise of the Dread Moon, like people get it and go, what the hell is this? This isn't good. That doesn't mean that it's the end. On the other hand, I mean they've got so much momentum going and so much goodwill that it'll be interesting to see how it pans out because it looks like they've introduced a lot of interesting, potentially new mechanics. We don't know what all these tokens do. We don't necessarily know how much more to it. I mean, they're only showing us a few things, so it's like, okay, that keeps anticipation going. But
I think we know the Caltrops tokens, and I think that's about it.
Yeah, well, yeah, and see, the hardcore people, they don't have to worry about. Those people, like us, like many of us, are gonna just buy it and be like, okay, here's what it is. But part of what I see in myself is I'm kind of taking the hit. Like, I'm gonna buy it, but if it sucks, I'm gonna tell you. Like, or if I have problems with it, I'm gonna tell you. So it could potentially be
Does anybody
something.
foresee it sucking though, or being bad from what you see on it already?
I feel like they know what they're doing as far as like stuff that's already been done before. Like with Prophecy of Telor and the Spirit Queen's Torment and even Crypt of Perpetual Darkness in the Mythic tier, they didn't really take too many risks with those. I feel like they pretty much just like reintroduced HeroQuest. They had fun with it. There was a few twists and turns with the lore that some people may have thought, well, I don't really like that, or that's kind of cool, but there isn't a whole lot to it. It's just kind of more of the same, more of the same.
I mean, to some extent, I think that was dictated by the fact that other than the one special figure that they gave to Joe Manganiello, all those quests had to be designed with, I think, nothing more than tiles, right? The only stuff they could use was the stuff from the base game.
Yeah, but that's not a big deal because with HeroQuest, anything can represent anything else. So you could just have like a blank tile and you say, oh yeah, that's a vortex of magic or something, or oh no, that's a crushing ceiling, or oh that goblin, that's like a goblin berserker who has all these abilities. Like you could just make up anything. So it's not a limitation, but just giving you stuff that maybe you'd expect to find in the universe, but maybe necessarily wasn't there before. Like good guy orcs, like, okay, well, we didn't see that before, but we have seen like monsters that switch sides. So it's like, okay, that's nothing too new. Or heroes transforming into other characters. Well, they've done that before. So yeah, it's nothing too unusual. So with this Rise of the Dread Moon, it looks like they're taking some risks, which could be a good thing. But if it gets a lot of negative feedback, they may just play it safe again and go backwards. So it could be good or bad. But it might not be like make or break. Because I think I talked about it before like that. Like it's going to be make or break. Like either this is a big success or they're going to shut the whole thing down. Or they're just going to sell the game system and a couple of the early expansions and just leave it at that, like forever, or wait 10 years until whatever. I don't think it's that drastic. I think they could bounce back if it doesn't succeed. Now, if it's a big success, they'll probably just keep moving forward with what they're doing. But I think in the world of board games, they've told us this before, that they have a couple of them in the chamber, a couple of them in the can they're already working on. So the fact that, like with HeroScape, like they had made all this stuff already, all these designs, like they're not just going to throw that in the trash. Probably they're probably going to recycle as much of that, recoup as much of that as they can. And by the same token, with HeroQuest, like maybe the direction of future quests would be affected by this. Like people just latch onto one part of it and go, wow, this is so amazing, I wish there was more of this, and they're like, oh yeah, we always meant to do that, and like modify the stuff. So
yeah, I agree with that. If like something like this flops, because this is a whole new direction they're taking. This is not something that's a re-release or something that's based off something older. If this flops, then there's two ways I could see them taking a direction about this, and that's either based off what they're either told by their parent company, or which Hasbro, or it's something that they're going to fall back to, which they already have planned. So like, for one, they'll either fall back to like kind of like a retro or re-release sort of deal, to pull something like you said, like either use the game system, or they'll try to, fall to something that's more familiar, or they will go to uh, something else. They'll try one more time with something else. They have like kind of in backup. I don't. I like I said, I agree with you here. I don't really believe that this could be the. I don't think they're going to completely drop it anymore based on what they've already shown us. But I feel like if it does flop, I don't know if anybody really likes the direction it's going in for this release yet, because nobody's really gotten their hands on it yet, right?
Right. We don't know
So
anything.
We don't know what's in it.
We just know a couple of the
So-
pieces, but we don't know the context that they fall within.
Yeah.
So if you give
We
us
know-
a
So they
monster
might-
that can walk through walls, it's like, well, that's kind of cool, but how is it going to be used in the quest? Who knows?
So
How often is it going to
pretty
show
much
up?
Yeah.
I
go
could
ahead.
just see them just trying something different, slightly different.
Mhm.
And then if that flops, or if that doesn't get as I guess, if that doesn't meet a goal, then they might not be releasing too much after that.
Yeah, it's like if it doesn't get the reaction they were looking for. I keep thinking of professional wrestling. They're like, hey, look at this awesome guy, and people are just kind of like, he's okay. Like, all right, well, maybe we'll tweak it and change it to something else. Like, it's the Shockmaster. It's like, no,
The
this
Shockmaster.
guy's a joke.
But
Okay,
yeah,
change his gimmick like 3 or 4
I keep
different
saying
times.
flops, but
Yeah,
like I'm more
maybe-
thinking of like if it doesn't meet a goal, or
Yeah,
like you said, like the reaction they want, because it could be popular within the community, but they could be trying to grab maybe new players,
yeah,
or maybe
exactly.
a bigger number than they did with the last release. So
Yeah.
if it's not something that they're expecting, then
hmm
could be they go in a different direction, or slow down how much they're releasing.
Yeah. Well, and I do want to say one thing. So, Jacer, of course, kudos to you. You're bringing up Prophecy of Telor. So, Prophecy of Telor, we know is coming out next. So that's already decided. But what do we know about it other than what the box looks like? We know that it's a quest book from the Mythic tier that people wanted. So even though it's not a remake of a classic legacy product, the fact that it's kind of like the Guardian Knight, like people saw it and then it was gone and they couldn't get it. So the fact that Prophecy of Telor is coming out has that going for it. And out of all, I mean, I would say this is true of me. Out of all the Mythic stuff, like that was the thing that impressed me the most. Like I know initially people were like, "Oh, a dragon, that looks so cool." But when you look at Joe Manganiello's quests, it's like, were they that cool? I mean, they seemed kind of more just like he ran out of time and just wanted to kill everybody, and that's fine. But with Prophecy of Telor, it felt like, okay, he's dipping into the lore. It's Stephen
He's
Baker.
in good company with Frozen Horror, then, right?
Yeah. But the appeal of the Frozen Horror was it was the one that got away. It's the one that people didn't know
Sure.
about. It wasn't like, oh, this is the Dark Souls of HeroQuest that's gonna just like murder you, and you're cool because you don't mind getting murdered. It's not like that. It's like just the fact that Crypt of Perpetual Darkness is kind of like what a lot of people experienced when they were creating quests. This is my take on it. You play a couple quests, and like, oh, this is a fun little adventure. I'm getting drawn into this world, and it's kind of like winking at the camera, but then it's like, okay, fine. You know what? You guys got through my quest too easily. All right, here's a bunch of magic that's gonna just give you a really bad day. So it's ramping up that difficulty.
Yeah,
But
here's a
still-
bunch of super monsters that pop out when you search for treasure and get to immediately attack.
Yeah, but even then, even at his hardest point, like it's still easier than the Frozen Horror, which I think looking back and from what we've known and guessed about the Frozen Horror and Mage of the Mirror was in 92, like it was probably they were at a point where either release what you've got or it's not coming out ever.
Yeah,
And only
I
a
think that-
small
I don't think
number
there's
of
any
people
question about that.
and only a small number of people got to see it. And I'm glad that it was released because at least it was in people's minds for 30 years. For 30 years. And also the fact that like the draft notes are out there and we know that Avalon Hill has those. They have all that legacy stuff. And the thing is, there's only a small number of people in the community that know about that stuff and care about it enough to want it. But in a sense, that small corner of the community drives other people's curiosity. So it's like, wait a minute, why are all these hardcore HeroQuest guys talking about the Dwarf Quest pack and the Wizard Quest pack? What? That never happened. And why are they praising Prophecy of Telor? So it's kind of like we're creating that buzz. So if we all get Rise of the Dread Moon and go, this is pretty boring. Like, I mean, they might still sell, but yeah, if they're not getting that reaction they're wanting. And Prophecy of Telor is probably going to be just fine, but it sounds like it's going to be a smaller pack. We're guessing by the size of the box. Like the box they showed us looked a little smaller, like the Return of the Witch Lord. You know what I'm talking about, StrangeBus, like the smaller expansion box. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that could be fine. Having a good quality set of quests is awesome because you get to enjoy those adventures and it inspires you. You're like, oh yeah, I like that gimmick he used in Quest 5. I'm going to use that in mine, or I'm going to take it in a different direction with my quest, which is the whole point of HeroQuest, to inspire you. But still, you've got people who don't want to do that. They're just like, listen, this is my vacation product. I don't want to do any work. I just want to open it up and play it. And so when they see Rise of the Dread Moon, they'll be like, oh, a brand new quest adventure. And even the hardcore HeroQuest guys are saying this is something they've never seen before. Let's give it a shot. But if they're like, this is kind of complicated, it's kind of boring, I don't know.
I mean, something I'm going to be curious to see is, given what we were just talking about, the kind of rough, the very rough in some places, like a degree of testing and polish on those last US expansions. Like, are people going to give a lot of runway here? Because I'm certainly of the opinion that Mage of the Mirror and Frozen Horror require some fixing to really be
100%.
Super playable.
100%.
And so it's like, okay, so the thing that they're following is like, well, those were pretty flawed in certain respects, but they came with a lot of cool ideas and themes and concepts and, components. I think that's one of the big things about Prophecy of Telor that I'm going to be really curious to see is just, I'm going to be a little disappointed if they don't find a way to work in some new stuff that nobody has seen before. If it's just like alternate poses of monsters we already have or something, it's like, okay, that's cool, but it's not going to get me super excited. And it's honestly, I'd have to probably weigh whether I even need to buy it because I was a Mythic tier backer.
Yeah.
But I'm really hoping that there's some new bells and whistles that they find a way to make part of that. Even if it's something where it's like, okay, it's something that was just proxied originally or something, but now you've got a dedicated miniature. Honestly, and it's like, okay, but now as a home, if I'm homebrewing, now I've got some cool new miniatures that represent something we didn't have before that I can do something with.
Honestly,
anything in particular that you might be expecting?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I actually haven't read Prophecy of Telor. I was originally hoping that I might get to go through the Mythic tier stuff as a player. And so I avoided actually reading the quest books. And the fact that they then didn't put it in the app, it was like, because what I was going to do was like fire up the app and have it act as the Zargon for like me and my wife.
So we gotta play it for you so that you don't get spoiled. Because I spoiled myself rotten for it. I just read through it. And that's how I feel, like, even though I did not play test it. Like, other people now on like YouTube and stuff have recorded Prophecy of Telor, but just comparing it, like comparing the tone of it, like I think Teo Sabatia's Spirit Queen's Torment is kind of in the middle. Like, it feels like he's trying to do some generic fantasy adventure of his own, but then it's like, okay, fine, it's part of HeroQuest, I guess. Like, that's how I felt. Not in like a super negative way, but just like, it's kind of further removed, which is fine. People use HeroQuest to make their own worlds all the time. But I mean, it feels like, if I were to put it the chronology, Spirit Queen's Torment is like way far in the future. Like, this is like Zargon's empire is falling apart. His guys are deserting. Mentor is like starting to lose it mentally, so he has to like recruit other people to help him with his like lore tome stuff. Like, that's how I picture it. Like, the heroes are at the end of their careers, like, going out one last adventure, They got Harrison Ford, and he's all like grizzled. He didn't even shave. That type of thing. Like that's what I picture. And it's like, okay, that could happen. But whereas, and then Joe Manganiello's one is like, this is the jokey, like winking at the camera, like we're a bunch of kids playing and playing in the sandbox known as HeroQuest. It's like the stakes are high, but they're not. It's kind of a weird. I don't know if it's like the Avengers or
Yeah.
something, or it's Deadpool, or I don't know what it is, but it's there. And then whereas Prophecy of Teller is much like, it's almost taken itself too seriously. If you had to critique it, like it's
Mhm.
like, okay, look at all this. Like here's a paragraph of text every time you like go into another room. Like there's all this story, and you can tell it's like Stephen Baker's like, wait, I'm back in HeroQuest. Let me just like, they're like dragging him away from the
I haven't
typewriter.
gotten to do this in 20 years.
They're like pulling him away from the typewriter. He's like, no, one more. Like, let me write one more story. Let me just like insert that in there. Like you could tell he just, poured himself into it. And I think that's great, because if you're like super nostalgic for HeroQuest and you're like, oh man, I just want more. It's like, okay, here's a bunch of stuff. Like if I had to compare it to something, I'd compare it to the Dark Company, not in the way that the Dark Company is like super hard, but in the sense that it's like he gives you a lot in
Mhm.
there. And the other thing about Prophecy of Telor that I appreciate is that it doesn't have to go this way, but if you want it to, it's the wizard's time to shine. I'll just say that.
Mm.
And I think a lot of players of the North
Yeah.
American version were like, well, I like the wizard, but he kind of like he's got too many limitations. Like he can hardly use any weapons. Most of the artifacts he can't use. He's basically just the guy that like hangs out until the very end and then just throws all his spells at the bad guys, or come and heal me. Like he doesn't, like, I don't know what were they expecting, but it's like, it's not that all four of the heroes are each like an unbeatable champion and they're all going to go off and have their own adventures. No, the point is they're supposed to band together and
Work as a team.
and the wizard has his role. So if you don't want that role, you pick a different hero. But it's it's more of a challenge to be the wizard, because you're like, okay, I'm not going to be the best fighter, but I've got all these really useful spells that without which it's going to be extremely hard to win. But what Stephen Baker did is he allows a certain hero to take a certain role, and if it's the wizard, it's kind of like his redemption story. It's like it's where he gets to be the awesomest dude ever. So I appreciate that, and I think people who like the wizard and wish that he was more in HeroQuest will appreciate that. So whatever tweaks they make to it, I mean, there was a couple typos and a couple things that were unclear. Sure, they'll probably fix that. But honestly, I would buy it even if it was just Mythic stuff. Like if they just an excuse to re-release the Mythic stuff. I know a lot of people wouldn't, but I would be just
I mean, we don't.
supporting it.
I don't know.
Supporting it with my dollars.
Would not.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true that a lot of people wouldn't.
Well, most
I do
people
think
never got it. So
right. I mean, a lot of people never got it. I don't know. I don't know how much the allure is for, how much customer expectations have changed, right? Like, as someone who had the original Keller's Keep and Witchlord, like, it was cool that they were included in the Mythic Tier pledge, but it wasn't really why I was doing it. I already own those expansions, and I already kind of found them underwhelming content-wise compared to some of the others. It was like, okay, there's some tiles, there's just rehashes of monsters we already have.
But
just not even rehashes, just more copies of the same figures, It's like
some of it is expectations change, I feel like, because nowadays, at least the people who are into like miniature gaming and tabletop gaming, the people I'm going to be hanging out with at GenCon, these are the people that are like, oh, new miniatures came out, 5 minutes ago. Boom, I got my pre-order. Like, bam, I got it. I'm going to paint these.
Pre-ordering wasn't a thing in the 90s.
Yeah. And it's like, and you can see it on Ye Olde Inn. You go there and people are like, yeah, I want to have like 5 different orc designs for all the different like particular orcs you meet. Oh, it's an orc wizard? Well, then I've got to have a miniature where he's got a cloak and a staff in his hand. Oh, there's a orc with an eye patch. I've got to have a miniature of that. And Jacer mentioned the fire demon. Like, there's a fire demon somewhere. And it's like, okay, do we have to have a miniature of the fire demon? No. It would be cool, sure, but I mean, you don't have to have a miniature.
Your
of every-
gargoyle as a fire demon.
Yeah,
That would
well,
definitely be cool, though.
that goes back to the fact that, as many of people know, okay, in Lord of the Rings, you got the Balrog,
The Balrog.
the Balrog, demon of the ancient world, right? So Warhammer, they make the what do they call it? Bloodthirster,
Bloodthirsters, yeah.
which is this giant like demonic chaos prince, whatever. Yeah, so you've got this big brute, and so then they shrink it down and call it a gargoyle, and that's the gargoyle in HeroQuest, which I think is awesome. And so like a lot of people have painted him to look like the Bloodthirster, but he's miniature. So it's like having a mini Godzilla like in your game.
I've always liked though that HeroQuest is able to kind of be its own thing in that regard. Like, yeah, if you're steeped in Warhammer lore and you want to say you want to build on the demonic lineage, you can, but you can also just be like, it's just a magically animated statue.
Yep, it's just
and you can paint it like stone.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is, I think this is true of a lot of games. The game itself is not necessarily the thing. I mean, okay, maybe if it's Sonic or Mario, it is, but a lot of games just remind you of other things you like, and it's just putting you in there, even if it's not the thing. So, Doom is, okay, you're fighting demons with a shotgun, and for some reason they're like pink, like shaved gorillas and like zombies and stuff. Well, the point is, it reminds you of Aliens, and that's why you like it. Like, that's the initial concept.
Shaved gorillas.
Shaved gorillas, yep. And it's true.
I like that.
And yeah, and HeroQuest reminds you of Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, Red Sonja, Kull the Conqueror, Deathstalker, Barbarian Queen, Sword and the Sorcerer. You know, all these like cheesy, over the top, like Wolf the Barbarian, like comic books, TV shows, movies, and it's just like, it doesn't matter if it's realistic. The point is, like, you get to have that sword and sorcery and those orcs and, you know, all that stuff. And the fact that it reminds you of Warhammer, and Warhammer reminds you of Lord of the Rings, is like, it all comes together. So the fact that you can have a fire demon in Prophecy of Telor, spoilers, even though it's not Warhammer, it's kind of a tribute to that, like where the origin. So I think that's all good stuff. So if I think if they have enough of that kind of not necessarily like fan service and nostalgia bait, but just it feels natural in this Rise of the Dread Moon, it'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. And they'll make
Point is that it's badass, right?
Yeah, it's badass. Jacer, let's see. He just had a big list of all the canonical order. So I take this with the same grain of salt that I do, well, even more so than like George Lucas saying, well, you got to watch episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then Disney saying, well, you got to watch these cartoons, and then you got to read this comic, and you got to play these games, and then you got to watch this other movie, and then you got to watch this TV show.
I'll watch all the TV shows.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll do all that. I'll do that right away. It's like, nah. So you've got enough quests. You've got years worth of quests out there, even if you don't have the mythic tier. So I think at a certain point, if HeroQuest gets to the point where we're having like, you know, HeroQuest versus Transformers and HeroQuest Risk and HeroQuest Opoly and all that stuff, like there'll be so many quests that you can't play them all. You'll just pick the ones that you want. Like it'll be targeted. Like, okay, here's the one for kids. Here's the one for like super advanced people. Here's the one for, you know, like people who want to spend all night playing it. Here's the short quest, you know, whatever. But
right, do you even have to worry about that though?
We don't
about it getting that crazy.
Well, I don't know if we will or not. They have said publicly that they have plans through 2026. So does that mean that in 2026, if they're making tons of money, they're just going to stop and be like, that's good enough?
They're talking the Disney talk where they're trying to do a roadmap, right?
No, that's just right accounting for the timetable that it takes to go from
you think it's just practical?
Conception to fabrication and shipping, right? Like you can't just design something and then say, "Oh, this is cool," and have it shipped the next week. It takes time to make. It takes time for people to do the miniature designs. It takes time to print the stuff. It takes time to send all the specs to the company in China, whoever it is, the factory that churns out all the stuff. So when they say they have a roadmap to 2026, I mean, I don't think, I think it. I mean, I could be wrong, but my guess would be that was based on when they said that. As time rolls forward, right, stuff comes out.
Forever.
That's for their current, their current probably future releases then?
Well, it's that, as a project finishes, they push a new project onto the end of the line.
And they've got
so it's not like
the drawing board. Yeah.
Right, it's not like they have a thing out to 2026 and then they're not going to decide anything further until they get there. It's at the time that they made that statement, based on what time it was then, it was like, okay, we've already got a project plan out to 2026. And it's like, okay, by the mid 2024, if you asked the same question, they'd be like, yeah, we know what we're doing. We're already doing preliminary planning for stuff that's going to come out in 2027.
Yeah, but not what the whole phase roadmap plan thing is where they're like, oh yeah, we've got like a 15-year roadmap of what we're planning to do all the way up to like you said, like for Disney movies or for video games even do that now. Well, you got like a roadmap plan.
You have to, because the time it takes to actually make this stuff, if you want to make it any good, it takes a lot of time.
You want to keep.
I mean, if it's a business accounting decision, right? It would be. I could definitely see that rather than just people going, oh, well, we plan on releasing like 2 different expansions within the next 5 years, and different than just talking about it. Like they actually have like a.
They're committed to it.
They're doing this because it takes time to make, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It takes time to make. It's more than just saying like they're not trying to get a hype train going. Pretty much.
No, right.
Well, they haven't told us. Yeah. They're going to tell us at the last minute what it actually is. So I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, if it was a hype train thing, I think they would be more like what some video games do, where they tell you, they're playing stuff pretty close to the vest.
Yeah. 2025 episode this, 2026
right, like
episode that.
Yeah, like Marvel or certain things. It's like, they already told you the identity of all the DLCs that they haven't even started making yet. It's like, but they already know what the theme and concept is going to be. It's like, for something that's going to release 1.5 years, 2 years from now.
Hey guys, Ribby's in here, so everybody be on their best behavior. I'm just kidding. Welcome, Ribby.
I've been in here since the start of the thing, dude.
Yeah, I thought I heard another voice. Like, wait a minute, but I was getting too into it. Sorry.
It's all good.
I really appreciate the work you've done for us. So if you've been watching some of the HeroQuest fans streams, he's got some 3D prints that we've been using, and he's got some more in the works, which I think is great. And of course,
cool
Mentor Bot
in the box, ready to ship. I'm just gonna drop it off tomorrow.
Nice. Yep. And that confetti is going to take a long time to vacuum up after it blows up in my face. Kidding. Yeah. So, well, with the HeroQuest thing, so there's a lot of comments here. I just want to quickly address these. Aren't there like 2 years worth of Sunday quests? Yeah, I think so. MCU Phase 1 5-year business plan. And yes, the triple bladed sword in that was my own comment in Sword and the Sorcerer was awesome as a kid, but it was also silly. Ribby says, if you don't mind, read this. We need a HeroQuest app similar to the Valkyrie app for Descent, which I'm not familiar with. Lets users create content that can be played via the app and lets you download other campaigns quests. Maybe tie it in with HQ Builder. Really let the community share and play content would be awesome. And I mean,
if it's official, it probably, I think just because of liability and legal crap, they basically have to steer clear of stuff created by fans, right? Like they can't create a quest that's too similar to something a fan already created.
If I send them
my quest
idea, they're going to be like
suing them, saying, "Hey, you stole my idea."
Or give a really draconian like HeroQuest OGL that everybody's going to be pissed about. So just leave it alone. I'm fine with that. Like, you buy HeroQuest knowing that there's hundreds and hundreds of fan quests out there that are ready to play, like if you want them, and they're free.
But they're not going to show up in official material.
Yeah, and who cares, frankly, because other than like, why would you buy the product? Well, you buy it because you like having fancy plastic miniatures and fancy tiles for a reasonable price. But a
So,
quest is just a piece of paper with words on it.
do they do like community content via the app as well? Then
No, they don't. And
They don't at
and
present. No.
and the thing is,
Only official, yeah.
it's kind of like D&D Beyond. If they start down that path, what's going to stop them? Not saying that they would. Yeah, imposing a lot of like restrictions and either basically like shooting themselves in the foot because the fan community would be better and freer, or realizing that they can't compete, like trying to go after the fans, which is the last thing they want to do, and they have not done that yet. And I hope it never gets
Right.
to that point.
Okay.
And maybe HeroQuest
And
is
that's
so small that it's like, oh, you piss off the fan base, forget it, it's over. Whereas D&D, you
and,
can like piss off millions of people and still make money. You know?
and that's kind of why I suggest the Valkyrie app, which there's an official Descent app, and then there's that Valkyrie app, which is totally separate, totally unrelated. And
Okay.
user content and everything is created in that separate app and can be played and shared and downloaded through that app. And it would be similar to the HeroQuest app where you could play, without a Zargon character, but have all that user created stuff, which would be really cool.
Yeah. Well, I think just having like a remix button on there would be great because, yeah, you play all the quests in the app and you're like, okay, what next? Because you're supposed to, like, you fail a quest, you replay it, it defeats the whole purpose because the quest is identical. It's like playing Super Mario Brothers. You just play it until you memorize the whole game, and then it's easy, relatively speaking.
How do you start speed running it?
Yeah.
So
Whereas HeroQuest is
you guys
supposed
are
to be unique.
saying that user like user created content electronically would probably be more harm than good, right?
I think it's a Pandora's box. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great for us, but it would potentially be a liability mess for Hasbro, which is why they're not going to allow it to happen.
Yeah, they may not want fan submissions because of the
Yeah,
online
and maybe that's something
problem.
was officially.
Go for it.
My computer froze. Am I
Oh.
talking now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
so basically, maybe that's something that only comes along after, Avalon Hill and Hasbro officially stopped supporting it, and so maybe now we're just kind of stuck with what we have.
Yeah, like we were for 30 years. Like, oh, no more official content. Fine, we'll make it ourselves.
I mean, it's
Okay.
always been a game in which that was,
Yeah.
like, it's not like that was even, it's not like you even needed to wait for the adventure design kit or something.
Oh.
The game shipped with material that said, hey,
Yeah.
make photocopies of this and go make your own quests.
Yep.
Like-
Enjoy. Yeah, and some people took it to an extreme level, and some people like barely touched it, but it was there. And it's always
No,
been
I was
there.
more talking about like with the app or something. Because isn't there an app where you can do the quests? But you can do the
Yeah.
quests with your phone, right?
Yeah, so StrangeBus, you remember when we were playing, like, you were the pirate with the sharpened blades? Remember that? That was the app.
I believe so.
Yeah, see,
Okay.
it seems like it's been a lifetime ago, but yeah, so those graphics you saw on the screen, you see the icons moving around of the heroes and stuff. That was the official companion app. So that has all the official quests in it. And it's supposed to be like, oh, you don't have a Zargon player, so you got to be the heroes. But what they really supposed to do is you're supposed to have the board, like we were doing it wrong, and I didn't care. But we're supposed to have the board, and you're supposed to be like following along. So like one person at the table is sitting there holding a phone, being like, okay, let me put the guy here and put the guy here, but you don't know what's coming, so it's still keeping the surprise going. But I mean, as players, you could go, nah, that didn't happen, but you're still trying to beat it. So, but the problem is, like, the quest is always the same. It never changes. And once you've completed all the regular quests, which would still take you like a year probably, there's nothing more until they release
who's
something.
going to design? I mean, I agree, right?
Some people
remix
don't want to
button would be
design.
great. But who's going to design it, right? You'd probably, under the current system at least, you'd have to ask Avalon Hill to make alternate
Mario
versions because
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
they're not going to just let a fan do it, and they're not going to, the app isn't currently set up to be a system where you can design your own quests.
It's free. It has no ads in it. Yes, it collects anonymous user statistics. Okay. But yeah, it's the amount of gimmicks that they had to program
Sell your
into
soul for the app.
was crazy. Yeah. But when I first saw the app, I'm like, this is so lazy. This is so silly. But then the more I thought about it, it's like, this must have been a pain in the butt to like put together.
Yeah, for something that they're supporting for free.
Yeah.
I'm a software engineer. Like, that's my line of work.
Nice.
The kind of app that, even with as many limitations as it has, that's not a small amount of effort.
No.
And they're doing it for free.
And it's advertising for the game because it gives you a sense of, there's like a lot of stuff missing. So it's like it tells you to flip a card. Well, you don't have any cards. Or it tells you to roll dice. Well, I guess I got a good roll. Like, there's some stuff.
I mean, some of that is dictated.
You know that you're cheating. But I mean, you could like get a sense of, oh, okay, this is what the quest is like.
Some of that I think is, you can have, there could be an element too, right, of they don't want the app to cannibalize sales, right? They don't want the app to be, someone somewhere probably says make sure the app isn't too full featured because you don't want people to actually functionally be able to run the game without buying the game.
I'm glad the app is the way it is because the fact that a lot of it is on the quote unquote honor system allows you to easily homebrew like the way that you like to play. Like if you consider like line of sight, like they're always debating, well, what is line of sight? Somebody views it one way, so you can play it that way easily in the quest, or you want to change the way the spells work, you can do that easily because it doesn't enforce it for you. You just say, oh yeah, the guy took damage, or no, he didn't take damage, or yeah, you get another card, even though it doesn't say that. I mean, when we played the app on the stream, that's what we did. Like, there's no pirate in the game, but I said he was a pirate, so gosh darn it, he is. He's supposed to be the bard. It's like bard, whatever. So we just did different things, and we had to kind of like work around it. Like, okay, somebody bought a monster, because that's how we do the Twitch streams. Is someone uses the gold coins to throw an extra monster in there. So we deliberately hit the wandering monster button so that monster comes up. And then the only problem there is, well, we don't get a choice of which monster it is. So I'm not as familiar with Descent, but is Descent another like sword and sorcery type board game? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Because again, I always think of
I'm not
the Descent,
familiar with it either.
I think of the Descent PC game from the 90s where you like control like a spaceship, which has nothing to do with it.
3D, it's another dungeon crawler.
Okay.
The rules are a little more complex. How combat and stuff resolves is quite a bit different, but it's really fun. I've been playing it recently and having a lot of fun with it.
But it's got miniatures and it's ongoing, or is it like an older game?
Well, there's 3 editions of it. There's the
cut out for there. You cut out a second.
Original one that came out in like 2000 or something like that, and that came out in 2011, which is the one I have. And then there's a brand new edition that just came out a couple of years ago or something that's totally app driven, which I avoided because I didn't want a totally app driven game. But the second edition you can play with an app that plays as like the Zargon / Overlord, they call it in that game, character. Mm-hmm. And you can play through all the campaign with that. It's really cool.
Yeah. So HQuest Builder is a website that's, again, it's free, it's fan made,
and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's very simple.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's not quite Mario Maker, but it is pretty straightforward. As far as like creating your own quest, and he has quite a lot of options. Squidge Monster is the guy's name. But I barely.
Somebody else was coming out with something like that. Something similar.
Yeah. There's another guy creating, and I wish I remember the name of it. Yeah.
What was the name of it? I can't remember it either.
Check out HeroQuest Fans Discord because the guy talks about it, and he gave it a really straightforward name to it, and it's like now I feel like I'm forgetting. So I'm really sorry. I'm kind of tired too. Yes, wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think HeroScribe is the old one that everybody knows about. So Yield and HeroScribe, but I mean, it's a program. You got to install it. You got to make sure Ghost script is
You have
installed.
to, yeah, you have to have
Compatible.
something that can handle PostScript files, which
Yeah. Well, I always
Whoa.
exported them as PDFs, but it's an archaic program, and that's what like the old community used. I mean, assuming they weren't just like photocopying and scanning stuff and copying and pasting. Ribby says I'll do a playthrough of Descent. Nice. Yeah, Squidge did an
That'd be
awesome job
interesting.
as Quest builder. Well, so HeroQuest will survive even without Avalon Hill, even without Hasbro supporting it. But the question is, if they can attract and keep that mainstream audience, which is primarily going to be like kids or parents that introduce it to their kids. Like if they can keep that going, then they can just keep growing and growing, potentially. But yeah, let's face reality. Eventually, people may get tired of it, and it goes back into the shadows again, as a lot of franchises do. They kind of burn out. There's too much of a good thing, and it just moves on to a different stage. And you still have your hard.
But they won't let go of the license.
But they won't let go of the license, right? So yeah.
nobody ever lets go of anything if they can avoid it.
Action Fence made a card creator that I still have to try out. Yes. Okay, so yes, you're right. JoeKozier's right. Action Fence is the name of the person, but what was he calling it? It wasn't Quest Builder, it was something else. But anyway, I think he's still working on it, so it might not be like fully featured yet. But I mean, I think I remember some pictures he showed. It was like, oh yeah, that looks cool. Because one of the things about HeroScribe is you make the map, but then you got to like just write a text document for the description and
Yeah,
everything.
it doesn't have any quest note capabilities.
Yeah, it doesn't really do that for you. And
it's not like a fully, an all-in-one thing. It just produces a map.
Yeah, it just produces the map with all the little icons and symbols, so it looks official. And HQuest Builder does both, but I want to say he doesn't have like graphics and stuff in the quest description. It just kind of arranges the text, in a clean way. So if you want to dress it up and make it look like it might have come out in 1992, it's going to take some work, no matter which one you use. HeroQuest Card Creator is what the tab on my browser says. Okay, HeroQuest Card Creator. Well, I was confused, Joe, because there was another HeroQuest Card Creator from back in the day, but I mean, it's like the images are really low resolution, like it's really archaic. I mean, a lot of people made a lot of cool stuff with it, but compared to now, it looks just really, really outdated. Because people are, printing their own cards like professionally and all this stuff. And unfortunately, in some cases, they're trying to sell them and pass them off as a real thing. It's like, don't do that. There is one other thing I wanted to cover in the HeroQuest portion here. I know we're kind of like past the first hour, and StrangeBus is taking a break there. There was this thing on Discord.
Right.
People were talking. Sorry, I was giving you a hard time. People were talking on the Discord about this gray version of the Rogue. And my first thought was it's a bootleg. But
that was my first thought too.
Yeah, because there are rare variants of the other HeroQuest, like the classic HeroQuest figures, like that are in black or in gray rather than, the color that we're all used to. But let me see if I could just put that up on screen. It was in the general talk. Okay. I'm just going to try to get another screen up here. I think I can do to Discord. Oh, there it is. Yeah. I was going to say the Avalon Bill thing. I haven't addressed that yet. He says, calling all HeroQuesters, let's have a little fun before the release of the Rise of the Dread Moon, shall we? We're going to show off some of the monster groups in more detail tomorrow. So that's Friday. We want to know which figures you'd like to see more this week. The battles between the Assassin and the Magus Guard. So I guess if you go to the Avalon Hill Discord, you can vote on which monster you want to see more info about. I was going to say, if it were up to me, I would vote. Well, I did. I voted for the assassin because I thought, well, the assassin I think is tied to some of those tokens, so maybe we can get a sense of how that works. But as far as the Magus Guard, I mean, it's the big guy, but we don't know what else, is to it.
We'll probably end up talking about both.
Well, eventually, yeah, we'll know everything, but it's like that thing WWE used to do. They're like, do you want to see a steel cage match or do you want to see like a flag on a pole match? It's like, okay, well, obviously they're going to do one or the other, and they're probably going to do whatever they're going to do to begin with, but they want to give you the illusion of choice. Like, oh, we made it happen. Okay, so yeah, so taking a look at this real quick. So it's an open secret that there's all kinds of people creating stuff for HeroQuest, and some of it is more like piratey than others. Like some of it's clearly like, okay, this is fan material. They don't mind if people release this. This is only helping them. But actually, the more that I look at this, this does not look like an official product at all. This looks like a 3D print. I mean, assuming this isn't just
Yeah, that's what
artifacting
it
from
looks
the.
like.
It looks
That's what
like
it looked like to me.
someone did a resin, like someone scanned their copy of it and did like a resin print of it. But I mean, it's just a photo. Originally, I was like, oh, maybe they just desaturated a picture of the real thing. But I know that there's people out there who have created like their own molds of like official figures. Like this is a real one that's painted. This is Jacer. So I agree with Jacer on that. And just the fact that someone's selling it, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, it doesn't mean it's legit. One theory that I like Hispazargon's theory, but actually the more I look at this, the more I think this is probably just a reproduction. Like he was thinking, well, what if, I mean, we know that these are made in China, no secret there, but what if like somebody in the factory is like, oh yeah, I'm just going to take all the like flawed ones and just like pocket them or give them to my friends or whatever, and just sell them and maybe they're like in a generic color. I mean, it's obvious they're not the originals. But who's to say, But the more I look at this, the more I think this is probably just he did like a 3D print. I mean, a really good one, a really good 3D print. So I think it was like AliExpress. And,
Yeah, a lot of questionable stuff shows up on
Yeah.
there, unfortunately.
But the thing is, why even do this? Because, okay, you just want like a huge army of these figures. Okay, great. But the fact is, you can buy the real one for like
Or they're just hoping to
decent price.
pick up. They're hoping to scoop people who are, some naive buyers who aren't paying close attention.
Yeah, because they sell bootlegs of everything. Like you can get bootleg iPods and bootleg.
Well, it's also if it's a
Transformers.
3D print, they don't actually have to make it until somebody orders it.
Print on demand. Yeah.
Right. So they don't have to sit on a bunch of stock. They're just waiting for someone to order it. Then they print one and ship it to them.
Yep. Okay. So we got another guy who might be joining the Rant Cast here. But yeah, so we pretty much think this is fake. That this is not. Can we agree at least it's not?
Yeah,
like Avalon
it's a
Hill is
scan or something like that.
It's teasing us that there's going to be a new rogue pack that has like a variation of the rogue that's in gray.
No.
Okay.
There's no reason that they would for
No.
them to do that.
But
This is
just
this-
because
this
they
is poo-poo.
reused some of the elves in Mage of the Mirror in Rise of the Dread Moon, and maybe they'll reuse some of the mythic characters in Prophecy of Telor. Of course, we don't really know that. I've been saying that for seems like years, but I have no proof of that. It's just I'm hoping. Okay, so much for that. Yeah, so Jacer actually, he pointed out some issues, and Learlex says I'm leaning towards dust and support marks. No matter which way I orient it in my mind, I just don't see all the locations making sense for supports. So we're talking about 3D printing. That would have had to be printed upside down for resins or right side up, and even though There's lots of those
They
marks.
usually are printed upside down, from what I
Well,
understand.
Those little nubs, yeah, because I have a bunch of 3D prints, and a lot of times they just leave those little marks on there.
If they're printed in resin, yeah, they're upside down.
Yep. But I mean, as opposed to someone like making a mold and, like doing like an injection mold of the real thing and then selling it. Like people have done that too. But the thing is, HeroQuest is entering a stage where it's not like that anymore. Like it used to be, everything was super rare, and hard to find. And it's like, okay, fine, I'll buy the bootleg because the real thing is so darn expensive. But now it's like not. Like, so, yeah, you're just catching
other than the
unwary.
original Knight.
Yeah, the original Knight was artificially limited. I mean, it was a short.
Yeah,
We know that
They
whole
didn't know that it was going to be as popular as it turned out.
They know better now.
Yeah.
And maybe we've forfeited a lot of HeroQuest products that we could have had that would have been exclusives, but they would have been going down that Warhammer route that everybody hates, where it's like, oh, here's a new product and it's here for like 2 weeks and it's gone, and then here's the next one and it's here. It's like, and if you're trying to collect it, like you're constantly like FOMOing out the whole time. Like, who wants that? I'm not too excited about that. Like I mean, I guess I have to face the fact, just like when I was a Star Wars fan, like I was like, I'm going to read every Star Wars novel that comes out. It's like, no, you're not. Like eventually it just becomes too much and it's not all of the same quality. So maybe I'll read one here or there. I'll play a couple of games. But I mean, a new movie comes out and I'm like, whatever. I mean, if they were all just one awesome thing after another, it would be hard to keep up. So I think HeroQuest might reach the point where it's just like, yeah, I'll just play it occasionally, or maybe I know what the official thing is going on, but I'm doing my own thing over here, and that's okay. Or, yeah, maybe like I'm not praying for it to fail so that I can keep up with everything. Like, yeah, you could play a quest every week, play for an hour or two, and keep up with the releases. Like if they release a couple quest packs a year. But it's almost like with my schedule, it's like, okay, that's the only thing I'm doing. Like, but at some point, will HeroQuest fans no longer be HeroQuest fans because HeroQuest is not everything? Like, I would probably just.
I think that's less like Star Wars, Kurgan, and more like the fact that you've either burned out, or you need to take a break.
Or you need to take a break. Yeah. For me, I would see it more like I would just walk away from HeroQuest fans, but other people would keep it going. Kind of like the Inn. Like, it doesn't have to be like one person just hardcore, like pumping it out constantly. I mean, while you're having fun, great. But eventually it's like, maybe you do something else. It's like, okay, this was fun for a while and someone else can keep it going. Something else will take its place.
Yeah, I know we do the Star Wars train quite a bit, but like a lot of these franchises have gone a long, long time, right? It's not uncommon for people to take a break from them, or to walk away from them, or to step away. But
yeah, it's fine, and it doesn't mean you're not a real fan or whatever that means. But like I was looking at James Bond the other day, and it was like there was a movie coming out every year for a long time, and then it stopped, and there was a long break. What the Rant Cast should be is a call-in show. I hear Amalgamash is going to do a call-in show, but he's got a much bigger audience than we do, and he's going to like pre-screen it. So I guess if he gets somebody that's trying to prank him or something, he doesn't have to ban him live. He could just edit that part out. You know what I mean? Somebody's trolling.
Like vet your calls?
Vet your calls, yeah. Caller, you're on the line. I think Howard Stern. Okay, we won't talk to that guy. It's like, what's your name? It's classified. All right. So
you don't play Horizons.
So, StrangeBus, is there anything going on in the world of Star Wars that we should know about?
I mean, sure there is.
I mean,
there's a lot of things going on in the world of Star Wars.
That's opening a big can of worms, isn't it?
I mean, it's. Do you want to hear them? Is the real question.
I just want Star Wars to be good. I just want it to be good.
Yeah, see, Ribby. Yeah, right. Dune 2.
Dune 2, the battle.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying.
Here, Dune 2, Electric Boogaloo. There you go. Look up that trailer, guys.
Some people hated Dune, the new Dune movie, because they said it was boring.
I
it was
enjoyed it.
slow.
I
it
loved
was
it.
long. I loved it too,
Yeah.
but
I loved it too.
I still wanted it. I wanted more out of it, but I still liked it.
I did too. I wanted a director's cut, which Denis Villeneuve apparently hates doing.
Yeah.
So we'll never get that. But I was like, man, I just want like another whole hour of this to like
Yeah.
flesh
I
out the
will-
story more.
Yeah, it
I
was
will
somehow
literally
not long enough.
shit if we get a director's cut of that.
Jason
'Cause it's
Momoa is
never
like, oh
happening.
man, it's gonna be 6 hours long. It's gonna be great, and he's like, no, it's not happening. But yeah, they film stuff.
It's-
But I was gonna say earlier, they've made entire movies and then canceled them at the last minute. Like that happens now. They spend millions and millions of dollars on something and then they don't use it. So I guess
You mean like the old version of Solo before it became social justice droid? Yeah.
or it was too comedic, so we had to make it serious. Or the Batgirl movie that didn't happen. Wasn't there some other movie that
It just totally disappeared. Yeah.
it was done? It was like, or it was finished and like, yeah, never mind. May have gone too
Yeah,
far in a
no.
few places. Yeah. Yeah. I just want to enjoy Star Wars. And I guess I don't need Lucasfilm to do that. I can just do that already. So it's kind of like the HeroQuest thing. So it's like I'd like to see it be good. I'd like to see the stuff like not be embarrassing, but whatever. I just think of the people that are looking forward to that stuff. Like, man, I can't wait till the next Star Wars thing. Or the next Dune thing,
Oh, I
whatever
don't
it
know.
is. And it's like, it was kind of disappointing. Or it
Okay,
was
Ribby,
kind of
slow down. Slow down. John Favreau already has enough of Star Wars. Guy's getting a little burnt out.
All right.
Him and who else? What else is his name? Did Clone Wars? I'm drawing a blank because I'm also getting a little tired. But him and the other guy, dude, they're on like 6 or 8 projects right now for Star Wars. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. I mean, yeah, you want to give him total creative control, great. But I'm going to tell you, give it 2 years, and he ain't going to be the hero of Star Wars no more.
Okay, at least maybe producer control or something like that, where he's kind of in the background, kind of guiding things a little bit.
But what I think they should do is go back to spreading it out into multiple forms of entertainment.
Yeah.
Or publicizing it a little bit more. Like, and slowing down on how much, like, media entertainment comes out for it. Because we get, like, a TV show or movie or animation based on Star Wars every, like, year or so. Kurgan, my face is huge on screen.
I mean, it's not just Star
Sorry.
Wars.
Larger
They're
than
churning
life.
stuff
Good.
out at such a ridiculous pace that I don't know.
Yeah, like, I'm a little on it.
Exactly.
Like I said,
We
like
found
I've
it
always said before.
impossible to actually keep up with anything.
Yeah, and like I said before in a previous rant cast, I'm a little bit on the other side of the fence from Kurgan here. I grew up loving Star Wars, not like starting with the first, the original trilogy, and then I went into the EU before the prequels or anything like that. So
That's
I love
expanded
Star Wars
universe
based on what,
kids out there.
yeah, based on what other people besides Lucas brought to the table, because there was much more to it than just the 3 movies, and I thought that was good. Like what happened later on, it didn't have to be strictly canon. You didn't have to know about it or whatever. It was just me, this bubble around me, and what I did when I opened a book. So, or played a video game. Shadows of the Empire is like one of my favorite Star Wars video games of all time. Rogue Squadron was one of my favorite Star Wars video games of all time.
Dark
And that took yeah, Dark Forces too. Things that, and they have spots in canon. Well, not anymore, but they did. And but you didn't really have to care, You didn't really. It was Star Wars, And that's what I kind of like miss about like that was like you just pick up a game or a book and read it, and the book would just kind of give you all you needed to know what was going on. Like Shadows pretty much told you where you were. You were in between Empire and Jedi, and Rogue Squadron kind of told you where you were. Didn't really matter because it was just kind of like a one-off at the time. And like some of the books that I read, Hair of the Force, a lot of the Republic Commando books, you already knew where you were when you read those. So you didn't have to have like these strict arguments or wonder, like Google, what part of the canon is this in? Like it's
like Soap Opera Digest.
you know.
You don't understand what the heck's going on. Well, it's like Wikipedia. Like, okay,
Rogue Squadron was a great series.
Who the heck this guy is?
Because it wasn't just video game. Rogue Squadron was a series of books too. So
I love them. Yeah, those were kind of those are the only ones I think in the entire EU that I really got invested in.
Oh, the Timothy Zahn books were really good. Like the ones with Admiral Thrawn and stuff. The original ones are really good.
Yeah.
And the Dark Empire comics were great.
Even some of
they had a different. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say even some of the stuff that like at the time I kind of like rolled my eyes. I thought this is so cheesy or this is kind of mediocre. Like some of that stuff, like I have a new interest in it now because I'm like, well, it didn't piss me off like some of the new Disney stuff did. It was fine. So it's like I'm kind of giving it another chance. And some of it maybe just conditioned by time. It's like, okay, there's no new Star Wars stuff. I wonder how someone imagines what would happen next. And so you read it. You're like, just to check it out.
And even so the Dark Empire comics had a different take on an art style for the Star Wars
very different
series, but you could still view the characters as they were. Mannerisms were a little bit different, but like I said, if you just put yourself in the book or in the comic, it took place shortly. I think it was shortly after Jedi, and it was around the Rogue Squadron series. So it was very nice. But yeah, so I mean, those are the ones that I really enjoyed. Like I said, I grew up with those comics, and Dark Empire 2 I didn't really get too much into, but I'd say if you anything Star Wars related in I'd say early to late 90s. I mean, Splinter of the Mind's Eye is a great book, but that's really early in the universe, and that's gonna have some really weird pieces in it because I think that was before Luke was.
That was before the trilogy was even finished, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was before it was written in that Leia was Luke's sister. So there are parts in that book where he's I think talking about how beautiful she is. So
nice.
It's really it's a great book because it still instills the fear of Darth Vader back in the day, the New Hope type fear. When you were a kid and you saw him walk out for the first time, that's how I felt. He was a very towering figure in that book, and there was no Luke, I am your father. Vader was gonna. I think in that book he was destined to try and kill Luke at the time. So. It was just it was a very big. There's a very very hard book to read because it's it's before the trilogy was finished, and there's a lot of things that make you go, huh? What?
To make you go,
Yeah. So especially the chemistry between Luke and Leia because it was they were siblings. They were siblings. You sick bastard. Yeah.
Not till 1982.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Well, could be worse.
Yeah, it was before EU was a thing. Yeah.
A lot of franchises more messed up than Star Wars, but.
Oh yeah, but yeah, like I said, we were talking Star Trek not too long before the podcast, but yeah, like I said I would recommend it to anybody, even if it's not super interesting. Like I said, Shadows of the Empire actually has a book I consider more interesting than the game. Just the books, man. The books were big.
the game has Dash doing things that no single character would reasonably have been able to do.
But
Hey, look, that's why he's like my favorite compared to like if you're going to pick between your favorite smuggler, I have to go
Qatar.
Dash Rendar hands down.
All right. So I think we have a new person in here. Farawayman. So we got
Hey,
Kurt,
StrangeBus, and hey, Kurgan. How's it going?
Hello.
and I don't think you've met Ribby. Welcome.
Are you guys finishing up, or do you have any? Are you guys still doing stuff?
Well, so I don't think you've been with us before, so I'll tell you, this is the Rant Cast. So where we talk about stuff that, not necessarily stuff we hate that we're mad about, but we've been talking about let's see, you missed, we were talking about HeroQuest. We were talking about the future of it and what's going to happen if Rise of the Dread Moon flops, what's going to happen. And I think we pretty much agreed that it's probably going to be okay. Like they're probably going to fall back on other things, but it might turn out to be great. Did you have any thoughts about that? And then we were talking about Star Wars, same way.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to play Knights of the Old Republic, but I'm sure HeroQuest will keep going.
Yeah. You still play it?
Yeah, sometimes. I played it recently. Yes.
Yeah. So, do you think you'll get the new expansion, or you probably just wait until you see more?
I'll probably just let people I know get it.
There you go. What about HeroScape?
I'll play with them.
Any opinions on that, HeroScape?
I've played it before. It's been a year since I've played it. I'll probably try to play it this year, but it's been a long time since I've played it.
Cool.
I played like a Napoleon versus Roman thing. It was nice to have the different, height ranges and stuff. If you played HeroScape before.
Yeah, I've never actually played it. I have the set, and I'm looking for an opportunity to play it. But it sounds like the new version from Renegade Studios, which unfortunately is not going to be shown at GenCon. That was the other thing I didn't get to say. I'm going to GenCon, and Renegade Studios is going to be there, but they don't have anything ready for HeroScape yet. But I know that, yeah, the ground is fertile for that to come back. And so, yeah, you've got all those fan-created, like, historical stuff, sci-fi stuff, just ridiculous stuff, like you've got Shrek and Monsters, Inc. and The Incredibles and Transformers and G.I. Joe and Masters of the Universe that you can just easily import into the game. People already have stats for all the armies, and like anything can happen. But they'll be selling, all those sets, and if you already have like a huge collection like some people do, they can just add on to that easily. And then people like me who are just starting out can have, their base set and add to it. But from what I understand, the combat in that is very similar to HeroQuest. You just got your attack dice, your defend dice, and then, the terrain. I guess there's beginner and advanced rules. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing that.
I thought it was a little bit more complex. I mean, the units, I think they had a little bit more. The units had a little bit more stats, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. So,
have any of you guys played HeroScape at all?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
That's it. We're playing HeroScape.
Hey, well,
everything.
I was talking with some of the guys on the playtest, because we're doing this secret playtest, about bringing Space Crusade back, like on our off days. But the thing is, our on our off days, I mean, we could be playing, like on a Friday, let's say, instead of a Saturday. If nothing's going on, we could be playing like a Space Crusade game or a HeroScape game. And the thing is, with these games, like, I'm learning more about it. So, like, as people join that know way more about the game than I do, like, they can kind of, like, teach me. And I don't mind learning it. So, Jacer says, range and height, no mind points. And most have special abilities. Joe says, I bought it for my son when it came out. I had to buy one for myself. Yeah. So, yeah, it's more like a war game, and you have terrain, is pretty much what I know about it.
I felt it was smaller than Battle Masters.
Yeah.
I played Battle Masters before, and it definitely...
Oh, yeah.
It felt like a smaller map. Like, Battle Masters was much bigger, but I think that the hexes and HeroScape are smaller. But
Yeah.
it did remind me when I've played Battle Masters and I played HeroScape. They did kind of remind me of each other. I don't know if that's other people's experience as well, but who have played Battle Masters. But just Battle Masters was more like big, epic, while HeroScape was more. There was so much elevation. It's like, okay, there's a hill here. You know, it's like, okay, well, make sure my guys are firing this way. I mean, the Romans had a pretty good chance against the Napoleonic guys, and I'm pretty sure the Napoleonic guys won though, because they could fire weapons.
Yeah.
But the Romans could get close to them and take them out.
A Battle
Romans should have
Master
been throwing Pila.
is like a HeroScape 7 hex. I was gonna say Greek fire, but I guess that was the Greeks, not the Romans. But
That was the Romans. That was the Byzantines.
well, yeah, they were. We are the Roman Empire, right. Well, there are so many games out there, and I guess I'm gonna get a taste of it at Gen Con. So I'll probably come back like a little more schooled on some of this stuff, and I can kind of give more intelligent opinions on it. But it sounds like HeroScape has kind of a similar quality to HeroQuest in that there's already a robust community of mod makers, and there's a lot of like pre-created stuff that you can easily adapt. So even if they're not coming out with expansion after expansion, you can easily do it. So moving into our next, well, back into the topic we were just talking about, Star Wars, like kind of some of the disappointment we're feeling, some of the burnout with all the new products coming out, all the new TV shows and movies, and then maybe having some nostalgia for some of the expanded universe, even some of the sillier or less impressive aspects of it, and just how it all changed. Like,
Hey, that's your thing, man. I enjoyed the expanded universe all around. So
well,
Yeah.
maybe
I mean,
I'm just too hard to please.
the quality of the EU is inconsistent, but I think at its best, they handled certain important topics.
Mhm.
Well, and some of it was just that, once some author had kind of covered something, everyone was bound by it. It's like
Yeah,
Timothy Zahn got in pretty early and was able to codify, hey, the rebellion really struggled to figure out how to transition into, from an insurrection into a government. And it wasn't just the emperor died, the rebels took got control of everything. It was like lots of people with power did what you would expect and said, I'm just going to do what I can to hold on to the, the authority that the empire has given me. And
well,
and it felt like
then there was the survival of the the Moths, like the survival of the Moths,
the Imperial
and stuff like
Remnant,
that. Where
I think was the term.
the Imperial Remnant was a great, it was a. But like
governors and
the reason I say it that way is because there were stages of the Imperial Remnant, right? Like they'd hold on to different sectors of the galaxy. The war, like the War of the Moths, and then you had the people who were still faithful to the Emperor, like they believed the Emperor was still alive, which technically I think he was.
Yeah,
so
I'm not personally a fan of the Emperor being the repeated attempts to bring the Emperor back. Like, I think he's a great villain, but I think you dilute him by continually returning to that well.
I'm going to both agree and disagree with both of those things because
I liked Dark Empire, though.
I enjoyed Dark Empire, but at the same time, I felt like Dark Empire was so cheap because it's just like, oh, all those guys you thought were dead, they're all back. It's like, okay, this is just an excuse for me.
But they were back for one time only. Though.
Yeah,
and that's the thing is like it was
WrestleMania, Legends House. All these guys are just gonna have this big ridiculous spectacle, and then it's over, and it doesn't count.
And it wasn't Disney style, right? Where it's like somehow Palpatine returned. It was like, you didn't know until the last part, and Luke didn't really know why he was. Well, he did know why he was double agenting, but it was like more than he bargained for. So he needed help getting out of there. So it was a very big. I'd say it was a very good comic book, and like
I didn't take it too seriously, and therefore I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But whereas the novels, I felt, well, of course, comic book versus novel. The novels are like, okay, all the politics. They're trying to form the New Republic. They're trying to get all these factions to agree with each other, and then meanwhile, Luke has to go on some secret mission somewhere to find some Jedi, and some of them are evil, and it's like all this stuff. It's like, okay,
But
but
I
they had
will.
side stories. They had side stories, like you said, with new characters. It wasn't just, well, what did Luke do next? What did Han do
I
next?
will
How many
agree,
kids did they
though,
have? Did he
that
and Leia have? You know,
Heir to the Force was a little inconsistent. And that's like the Solo twins. And then you start
solo
getting into
babies, they make your dreams come
the
true.
Uzan Vong stuff. And like, I've had opinions from people who liked the New Jedi Order and then did not like the New Jedi Order.
I never
So,
gave it a chance. I never did.
Never read it.
you
The
never, you
concept
never
of the
gave
Yuzan
any of it
Vong
a chance.
didn't seem to
Yeah.
fit to me.
Well, when I look at the
Oh.
sheer number of expanded universe stuff that was out at that time, it's like, wow, I pretty much missed
It was
all
also
of it.
just too
Like-
separated.
Like I was the guy that watched
timeline-wise.
one. I was got the guy that watched one season of like The Walking Dead and went, "That's it, it's done." You know, I'm
But
the
like,
guy
that
that
was the
read
thing, right? Is that you
5
could
issues
pick
of Batman.
what you
and said,
wanted,
okay,
right?
that's it.
I don't feel overwhelmed when I went into the EU is because like none of it. Well, to me anyway, I was like also a kid, right? Things are a little bit, I think, a little bit easier to shrug off when you're a child. But like at the same time, I wasn't like it wasn't force fed to me like a lot of this crap is now. Like, oh, there's Kenobi, there's this series, there's the Andor series, there's this. You gotta watch it all, please. Like,
Maybe the
you
idea
know,
that it's all part of one canon continuity is what ruined
it
it.
doesn't matter. There's way too much. It would take me days, right?
Rather than treating it
And
like
like I
King
feel
Arthur
like
or Robin Hood and just say, "Oh, hey, here's another adventure with your favorite character. Here's you doing
I
something."
expect when I read a book for it to take me days, right? But it's easier for me to, and this could just be me, right? It's easier for me to indulge when I read a comic book or a book to sink down at the end of the night and like relax than to binge watch an entire TV show.
Oh man, I binged watched The Mandalorian. I wish I hadn't done that. I had like a splitting headache. I mean, it was a decent
like-
show. It was enjoyable, but it was like, man, why did I do this to myself?
Well, and it is. Like I said, it's to me, it's not bad. It's just the fact that, like, you know, I feel like not everything should be fit for just TV. So, and that's like I said, that's just me. But
Yeah. Back in the day, you watch, every week you watch Star Trek. You have your TNG episode or whatever, and then you're like, you enjoy it, and you think about it for a week, and you don't remember every single detail, and then the next week you watch it again, and oh, that was kind of cool. Or like with your comic book, you have to wait a whole month for the next issue to come out, and it's like, oh, I wonder how they're going to defeat the Emperor. Oh, that's how they defeated him. Well, that was kind of silly, but I had fun up until that point.
I really enjoy Farawayman mentioning the fact that you're not going to play. Was it Knights of the Old Republic? I felt like I was a door-to-door salesman. Like, I'm out there handing out copies, and well, no, I'm not going to play Knights of the Old Republic. But I can't schlock my copy over to you. But that is a great game. That's a great RPG. I'd say out of like everything, I probably stand by that RPG all the time. But
well, I think
it's
the strength of it is it's like it's so far removed from the movies that you're not like concerned about it. Like, well, wait a minute, how did Han Solo do that? It's just like, yeah, here's a different time in Star Wars history, and they did this thing, and it kind of reminds you of the movies, but it's its own thing.
Yeah, they got Gunshot and Solo tanked, so all the other Solo films. I think it's also another big reason is the fact that
is that hashtag Solo lost money. Like people used to
the sequel movies got really nasty. So it's the safe version is to do TV, but I think did they say it was also cheaper to do TV? I can't remember, but
they're spending a lot on that stuff, and I guess sometimes I think I'm being too hard on Star Wars, and then other times I think, yeah, but like part of me just wants to blow it off and ignore it, but I feel like I want to say something because hey, this is a series that meant a lot to me when I was a kid, and it just seems like it's not like special anymore. It's just kind of like it's like fast food. Like it's okay, but too much of it's going to make it
really mentioned a lot.
That's a really good, I think, kind of 5-second summary. I think of what bothers me about it, which is just that there were EU books that were shit. Everything that Kevin J. Anderson has ever written is shit. But
he had
no, I object. I
he had
totally.
he had a lot of haters.
he
against
is
it.
just
No,
talking
no,
about
no.
Hold on, because this is what we have the Rant Cast for, son. Hold on, Kevin J. Anderson. So, what did he write for Star Wars? Hold on, remind me, please.
Jedi Academy trilogy, right?
Jedi Academy. I think was he Darksaber?
Yep.
Yeah, so Darksaber, we did.
Well, and he also
The Search.
with the Dune novels with Brian.
Yeah, he did
Herbert.
the terrible Dune novels.
Awful.
So
Can we just
bad.
talk about how fucking terrible is. Oh, sorry.
I didn't think they were that bad. I know heresy, but the fact that Dune was Dune was so good that it was like, okay, this is. I was eating steak and now I'm eating like a McDonald's hamburger. Like,
Oh, Heirs of the Force. So he did do Heirs of the Force. Okay, so yeah, I can kind of agree with you on that. Because, like you said, the Young Jedi Knights books to me were not that great.
I never read those.
The Jedi Academy was a mess thematically, writing wise.
I never read that, but I did do the.
The Jedi Academy trilogy, as far as I know, was the only EU books where a different author basically plonked their own book in the middle of some other author's book in order to fix it.
But Kevin J. Anderson, he wrote Tales of the Jedi, the comic book.
Did he? I don't know. Never read that one.
I like Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah,
I didn't remember who wrote it though.
Okay. I read the Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, and that wasn't bad. It was like I said, the Young Jedi Knights books were good for kids, I feel, but even when I was I think I was 12, they were still really awkward to read.
Do you think
they weren't as good as I was also reading Rogue Squadron at the time, and it was that sucked me in a lot more.
Rogue Squadron is really well written.
Yeah. So okay, I did not remember that, but yes. So portions of the Tales of the Jedi were Kevin J. Anderson. So I stand corrected. He did do some pretty awesome stuff. So Dark Lords of the Sith War, Golden Age of the Sith.
Tales of the Jedi wasn't bad.
Yeah. But a lot of these. See,
I never read Darksaber though.
I had the very first graphic novel of Tales of the Jedi. Loved it. Even though you could say, a lot of it's derivative, but our local library had a ton of them. So I'm like, whoa, instead of spending $100, I can just check all these out and read them. And it's I had a blast. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, Ribby, I own the Dune 7 notes, and that's the thing. It's Frank Herbert probably never published it for a reason.
They fly in the face of all of the ideas he set up in the first novels.
Well,
I cannot buy that that's what he was going for.
I think this is something we run into, the Lord of the Rings runs into this. Just because someone wrote something in their own notes doesn't mean that they intended to publish it.
Not all of their ideas.
No, that's a whole new monkey and circus, friends. Didn't we do a thing on Lord of the Rings, Kurgan, with the
Rings of Power?
What's the Rings of Assholes?
Shit, it's all made up. I mean, but just in actual Tolkien fandom, this is a pet peeve I have with it, and I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan.
Oh boy!
But people referencing stuff that is part of the history of Middle Earth things, which is it's Tolkien's developmental notes, basically. He was working on in his own.
This is like the duct
stuff
tape
he was
holding the
working
set
on
together. You're not supposed to see it.
It's stuff he was working on that he wanted to turn into something eventually.
Yeah.
It's pulling out a recording album that hadn't been published yet by an artist, when then the artist dies, and since they can't make any new stuff, they're just pull their pre-recorded stuff and throw it onto an album and special edition, just do it.
I both agree and disagree, because I think at the time, so in the 80s, 90s, when I heard, Christopher Tolkien is approving this and that, and it wasn't just the Silmarillion, it was all this history of Middle Earth. I'm like, okay, this is guy just milking his dad's, notes.
I think it's great.
But I think he
I
was
think it's
protecting
great
it.
that it exists.
It's great that it exists.
But
He was protecting it from a lot of people who would have done some really crappy stuff with it for a long time. And now that he's gone, well, yeah.
Well, I think it's great that that stuff is out there that you can see, hey, this is the concepts, the ideas that this person, this author we like was playing with. But it's when you then say, but because this is what he had in his own notes, it means that this is what is true within this world. It's like, no. This is something he was playing with. Like, we have no idea what the finished version would ultimately have looked like, whether there even would have been a finished version.
Yeah. But it's weird to think
Yeah.
that, like, you've read The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and you think you know it, but it's like, no, actually most of the development, like, was released
for other
like,
stuff.
decades
Yeah.
later.
Dude,
He wanted
is
to make
that
a
what his
history
name
book.
is? Simon? Is that his name? Simon Tolkien? Because that dude, yeah.
Yeah,
Heard
that's the
Grandson.
of
Yeah.
J.R.R. Yeah.
His family
Oof.
was just like, well, and the thing is, I mean, I finally forced myself to watch, out of sheer boredom, I watched the second episode of Rings of Power, and I'm like, if this wasn't Lord of the
No.
Rings, this would have been fine. But the fact that it's Lord of the Rings means I'm going to judge it much more harshly
You're
and
holding
go,
it to a much higher standard.
this
Yeah.
makes,
I think I said the
Yes,
same thing.
Exactly.
which
Was
is
that like
which
this
is,
this could have had any other title other than Lord of the Rings?
But then if it wasn't Lord of the Rings, you wouldn't have watched it. So it's like
No,
If it wasn't
no.
Lord of the Rings,
No.
it wouldn't have gotten
If it
that
wasn't Lord of
budget.
the Rings.
the Elden
Yeah, it wouldn't have
Ring,
gotten the budget. It wouldn't have gotten the
marketing.
viewership
the
that it
hype
got it.
behind it. Yeah, so it's not Superman, it's like, Titan Man or something. Like, okay, would you I mean, maybe Titan Man would have been awesome, but because it was
Oh,
Superman,
speaking of Lord of the Rings, has anybody played Gollum yet?
No.
Or
No.
Nor do
seen?
I intend to.
I've seen some videos of people just ripping it apart, making fun of it. How they
It's
make
just
you.
to me,
'Cause
it's like who asked for this?
But see,
That game
it
is
could have been
a
a
shit show.
it could have been a brilliant idea for a game. Like, here you're this little this little creature, having adventures. But yeah, the controls were bad. There's just bugs, and it's like just weird and all over the place. And they just make you
Not to
do
mention
menial tasks.
the fact that Gollum just looks like the weirdest fucking thing in the. Not even close. Like, I thought at first they were going with like maybe like a book sort of deal, like maybe he might, but no, not even, because like when the game first starts, it does like this really cool art style thing with the intro, and then you're introduced to Gollum at home. Not even like something that's remotely close to anything from the like
Was he
from
sipping
anything from
tea
the canon, from the show or the movie or anything.
Yeah, it feels like the
So
floodgates are open, so you can make any product with Lord of the Rings on it these days.
Yeah.
And what I was saying is Christopher Tolkien, like, he seemed like kind of a jerk. Like, he was just really strict about it. Like, oh, we do not approve this, and it's like, oh, come on. But then, okay, when he's out of the way, it's like, okay, fine, just exploit it and eat these burgers until you're like sick. Yeah.
ruins it.
Is it tasty? Is it delicious? Yeah, it's pretty silly.
Yeah, it's an awful, and
Well, but
yeah, performance was bad.
when you think
Everything
about
on it was bad.
the legacy of Lord of the Rings, okay, it's its own thing, but it also gave rise to all these imitations. And yes, we've always had stories about goblins and wizards and adventures and stuff, but okay, you had
because of Tolkien?
yeah, but it was revitalized, it was revived in the public consciousness. So people wanted to create Warcraft and Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons and all these other things. And there's official Lord of the Rings games, but there doesn't have to be. Like, everybody has their own like spin on it, their own take on it. It's like, well, maybe my elves are 12 feet tall, or maybe my elves are like 1 inch tall, whatever. Oh no, the Willow series. See, I just mildly enjoyed Willow when it was in theaters, and I haven't seen it since. Well, no, maybe I did rent it once on VHS. But yeah, that's how long it's been. But yeah, every franchise, they want to bring every franchise back, and a lot of times it's
But
not a
they
good
do a
idea.
horrible job of it.
Yeah, they do a
And I
horrible
feel like
job.
it's a lot of it's rushed or it's overthought or underthought, I guess. But
Like you said, it's just
it,
fast food, right? Like
Yeah.
that was, I think, where I was starting to go. Is that it just felt like the at least the good books in the EU and Star Wars, they just put more thought into, hey, how does this world work? What makes sense? Like, how hard, how easy would it be to do these various things? And the new shit is just,
Well,
they're just churning it out.
I just want to
Well,
say
and
how much
I
I love
mentioned that.
the Hobbit cartoon.
Oh, the original Rankin Bass one?
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, it's
Thank you.
fantastic.
and
I
and
love that
the
cartoon.
songs and everything. And I want to say I've seen the theatrical movie. I saw it in theaters. I'm not that old, but it came back to theaters and I saw it, and it was shockingly violent for a kids movie. But that's Ralph Bakshi for you. But the Hobbit cartoon and then the Peter Jackson movies. So I had a discussion with His Bazargan about this, and he defended it. He was like, "No, I enjoyed it," and I was like trying to get like his reasoning because like, okay, there's no accounting for taste. I respect the guy, but it's like I disagree. But his point was he liked it because he wanted to spend more time in Middle Earth, and that's what it did for him. It's like, okay, you know what? Let's go on some side
Yeah,
adventures. Let's
see,
have some side characters. I
to
wanted
me,
just
what
a
we saw
coherent.
wasn't Middle Earth because
Yeah,
it contradicted the canon of Middle Earth.
it did, but I mean, I wanted it to be like just a nice, coherent, short adventure. It doesn't have to be a sprawling epic like Lord of the Rings was. Like, just
Yeah,
tell
it's
your
supposed to
story, get in,
be.
get
I never
It's
out.
watched.
supposed to be the adventure that Bilbo has going to the Lonely Mount. Like Bilbo is supposed to be the main character.
Yeah. Well, and the
Yeah, I
thing
never
is,
watched the Hobbit films. I
if
never watched those new ones.
if they
So
just released it maybe as one movie
bad.
and then on the DVD, yeah, just go crazy. But I mean, to be fair, Peter Jackson did have an uphill battle. He was not the first choice. They
You're
kind of
right. He
they
didn't
went through.
even want to be doing it.
Yeah, they just threw him in there. It's like, okay, you've got all the CGI, you can finish it, and it's got to be 3 movies instead of 2. And so he is Mr. like no editor anyway. I mean, if you've ever seen King Kong, enjoyable, but did have to be that long. So yeah, it's like he
yeah,
tried.
I actually liked that movie. That was actually not too bad, if I remember right. Yeah, I watched that recently.
But it could have been tighter. But I don't know. That's the thing nowadays. Is like you have a movie and then you have the extended edition. It's like 3 hours long or 4 hours long.
Hmm.
Some movies are
Because
better
I
when
don't mind a
you
long
cut them
movie
down. Yeah, I don't mind it either. But
as long as it's just not like, I don't know, like you don't have to like. There's long movies with like a lot of like weird ass filler in it, and I guess it had its fair share, right? But I don't know. Maybe that's just personal preference for me. But that movie was to me, it didn't seem like super awful. I can watch it without like, I guess, falling asleep. So I wouldn't say it was like prime material, but to me, it wasn't like a shit show or it wasn't god awful. I won't turn it off.
the thing is,
Um,
I was introduced to like King Kong and Godzilla by I was reading Leonard Maltin's movie guide, and he's just like, he had I think it was like 5 stars was the best, and like 0 stars was a turkey. And there was a whole bunch of like Godzilla and King Kong movies that were rated turkeys, and I'm like, this sounds amazing. Like my love of bad movies, I think started there. I was like, I got to see this, and I was like laughing, enjoying myself. And when I was a kid, I put up with a lot more stuff. So I have a love of bad movies, like unintentionally, like the Rome level stuff. So I guess I'm not the best critic when it comes to like quality, but I guess I know what I like. I do want to say one positive thing about the first Peter Jackson Hobbit movie. The scene where they go to Bilbo's house and trash it and eat all his food and drive him nuts because he's like this proper guy and he's got all these dwarves like invading his home, but he can't, he's got to show them hospitality. So he's got to put up with it. That is like, that's how far I take it in my mind, like in my imagination, both when I'm watching the cartoon and reading the book. So I think that part was very well done.
I mean, the
The
first
rest of
film
it,
is by far the best of the trilogy because it's the closest to the book.
The Hobbit movies in general needed to focus more on Bilbo and his
Bilbo's the
perspective.
protagonist. Yeah.
Yes, of what's happening around him. It's this grand event happening, but from the perspective of this small,
Yeah.
simple person.
It's like
And
Alice in Wonderland. You've got to have
yes,
the person that's kind of just dropped in. Do you think
but
that
when
they were?
trying to make it too epic and stuff, it just kind of ruined it.
Yeah,
Just
it's
like
not about
keep
wizards
it.
and
Didn't
kings
kind of
and
ruin it. It did ruin it.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Keep it from the perspective of Bilbo, and Martin Freeman was great
we need Nick
as
Yeah,
Bazargan
he
on
was a
here to
great
defend.
young Bilbo.
I did what I could, sir. I defended your point of view on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't begrudge.
I
If
felt like
you like something, you like it. Period.
Sure.
I felt like Hobbit was just. It was nice. There was three movies, but I kind of watched them fairly close together,
Oh,
But
wow.
they thought they were too long, and I just
Yes.
felt like the
Yes.
second and probably the second and third movie. I just thought there was a lot of, especially the third movie. I felt there was a lot. I'm like the second movie ended on a cliffhanger, but I felt like the third movie was just a lot of filler. It just was like I just remember scene after scene of just him just like riding along, chopping off orcs' heads. There'd just be another like
The five
scene. I'm
armies.
like, are these like deleted scenes? Like, no, this is part of the movie. And I think there might have been more deleted
No,
scenes.
yeah,
with him
Right. If you recall from the book,
more
the-
orcs. And it was
in the
just like,
book-
how many is going to kill in this movie? Like 300, 400? I mean, it was like,
Right.
Speaking of 300, it
you
did
see that
remind
in-
me a
you
lot
see
of
that in an action
300.
movie. You see that in action movies, but it was weird to see in the Lord of the Rings where it's just like, okay, it's just the same like 5 or 6 orcs. He kills 5 or 6 orcs, kills 5 or 6 orcs, decapitates them, and he just kept doing that. I'm just like, it was like 20 minutes. It just felt like
Right.
filler. So,
Recall in the
those-
book, it's all from Bilbo's perspective. During that battle, he gets knocked out,
Yeah.
and he just kind of wakes up after the fact.
Yeah, he finds
A
out
bunch
what
of people are
happens
dead.
in narrative from other characters telling him how the
The
battle
fact
went.
that they just filled, right, and they filled so much detail in there that was just unnecessary. It was
Well, what
really
a shock.
frustrating to watch.
What a shock, though. I mean, and I hear that. It's like, okay, if I'm going to see a movie like, oh, there's going to be this huge battle, and I don't get to see it, like I'd be mad. But if I knew the story of the book, it's like, okay, he wakes up and what a shock. Oh, some of the people I was just talking to, they're dead. Everything's destroyed. Like, wait, what happened? B-Bird.
have you guys seen the trailer for Dune 2 yet?
Battle of the Five Armies?
I
Oh,
haven't
we talked
watched it
about it
yet,
already.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What'd you think? Go ahead.
Well,
Tom.
I haven't seen the trailer yet, but I was going to watch it tonight. Right, the first
Yeah.
movie I thought was actually I've seen the original, the 70s. I haven't read the book, haha. But I watched the original movie,
80s.
and I watched
How
the
dare you.
miniseries. I watched the 80s one, and then I watched the miniseries one a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
But I thought the new version was probably the best version I've seen, honestly.
Wow.
So I was pretty impressed by it.
And I think
Good
that
movie.
that is the mainstream opinion. Like, I like bad movies.
I loved it.
I enjoyed the 80s one, but it's so quotable. I mean, like, it
Wait,
quotes so much from the book.
80s is a bad movie? Really?
It was a flop at the time, and people made fun of it, and it is easy to make fun of because the acting is so over the top for a lot of the characters.
Oh, see, I thought that was intentional. I thought that was what the book was like. I mean, I tried to read the book,
You
and
could.
I couldn't get through it. I just started skimming around.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you could see it that way because there's characters that are very like intellectual, and most of the time they're not saying anything; they're just thinking all the stuff. And other characters are just like they're just wild and crazy and larger than life.
Speaking of Doom, I will be most likely doing a playthrough of the game. By the way,
Which?
because I guess there's a 4X that they released not too long ago, which is what was it, Dune Spice Wars?
Spice
I picked
Wars.
up.
Oh,
Yes,
so an
I
RTS.
have that game. Yeah.
Thanks, Polsky.
So I'm really eager to give it a shot.
The
So
last
It's
Dune game
I
I
will say
really
it's very hard.
spent time on was Emperor of the Battle for Dune. So that was a straight up RTS.
well, I've been playing a lot of very hard strategy games. I just got done playing was it Aliens Dark Descent, and that game's just brutal. It's unforgiving.
Well, I want to say one last thing about Dune Part 2. Yes, I would recommend seeing the trailer. And I think they have a tall order because so much of the book is left after Part
Yep.
1, and there's entire characters they've skipped over that they've got to develop. So potentially I mean, it could be very good, and it could be kind of like, I feel like what I try to say, I liked the new movie a lot, but it also left me wanting a lot more, like after it was
Yes.
over. And I guess
It was it, it was I was ex- because I was familiar with the story from the '80s one and the miniseries.
yeah,
I didn't really know how long they would go. So yeah, I did. It kind of left. I don't know if it left on a cliffhanger. It just kind of left on a okay. And now the next adventure will be starting soon. Okay, and the movie's over.
yeah, it definitely did.
I
'Cause
don't
it's like
remember much of a cliffhanger.
they
Was there
went,
a cliffhanger?
well, he fights Jameis, and then he goes with the Fremen. So you're like, okay,
So
That's
there's
how it
more
ends.
adventures
Yeah.
coming soon. Yeah.
more adventures coming
Spoiler
soon.
alert.
Exactly. Well, but they've got to go into, and there's so much like philosophy and like religious stuff, and I'm thinking, okay, are they gonna tell that accurately to the book, or are they just gonna leave a lot out so that fans know what it means, but the general public, the regular audience goer,
They
hasn't read the
have to
book?
leave a lot out. Just the nature of the book, they have to leave a lot out.
Yeah, but even though the '80s version left a lot out as well, which made a lot of people angry,
I mean, the '80s version was kind of just its own thing.
they
It's only
they
very
they
loosely the same story
I
as
mean,
the
it,
book.
it still has the hero's journey.
How is it different than the book? Because again, I didn't actually read through the whole book. I just
That's
skimmed
okay.
around and
Oh,
couldn't
so
do it.
like the weirding modules with the sound attack things and stuff
They
That's not a
simplified.
thing.
in the movie,
Yeah.
that doesn't exist in the book at all.
They made it a technology rather than, oh, this is some martial art that they have. Which, like, remember in the miniseries how they would just kind of warp around while they're fighting?
Yeah, like super speed or
Yeah,
whatever.
that
Like,
was
it wasn't
that was
that
the weirding
either.
way, as opposed to just, oh, we've got this new technology where we can just kick butt. Um, so the I think the
So wait,
biggest,
is the new movie more true to the book then,
yes,
Yes,
or is it more true to the '80s
significantly.
movie?
it's more true to the book, but
To the
on
book.
the miniseries, I felt tried really hard to be like the books, except for, I don't know about the aesthetic. The art style was really weird, but the miniseries was just like woodenly like copying the book. Like it wasn't necessarily like the greatest acting or the greatest special effects. It's just like, let's just throw everything from the book into the script.
Did you guys play the old game from 20 years ago, the Dune Battle for Arrakis game? They had like it had full motion video. It had
Yes.
film video, kind of like the old Jedi Knight did. It was
Yes, it
probably, I
did.
want to say 99 or 2000 or
West,
something.
Emperor,
Westwood Studios. Yes.
Emperor, the Battle for Dune. Yeah.
And it
Oh,
had like I played that game at the same time I watched the miniseries, so they all kind of warped together in my
And
head,
if you get into the book,
The
Well,
first game I
if you
ever
get the
played
book,
was
I have to finish.
Dune
from the
2000.
Sega Genesis called Dune 2 Battle for Arrakis.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I played that later. I mean, it was still a great game, and I
Yeah.
mean, I even
Yeah.
came back to that
I played them out of
after.
order too. Yeah. So you've
I
got like
played them completely out of order. Yeah, I just wanted more.
you got the
I was
3
like, oh
guys, you
yeah,
got the sand bike, you got the quad, the tanks. Even
Yeah.
though in the books it was like, well, we wish we could bring all these vehicles out into the desert, but the sandworms will destroy it. So it's a totally different kind.
Hey,
But the RTS genre basically begins with that and Herzog's Y for the Genesis.
hey guys, sorry to interrupt. I have to cut this short because I have to wake up. I've got a 5-hour drive ahead of me.
Oh
So
shoot.
Yeah, I've got to get going myself.
Hey. Well, we've really enjoyed this talk. So yeah, everybody check out Dune, check out Rise of the Dread Moon, check out the Star Wars Expanded Universe. There's still cool stuff out there. I want to play the Star Wars RPG someday, like the D6 game.
hey, Kurgan, whenever, man,
Yeah.
I got the stuff for it. So
Yeah. Well, have a safe trip, of course.
definitely.
Thanks.
Thanks everybody.
I didn't acknowledge everybody here, but yeah,
Later, man.
thank you, StrangeBus. Thank you, Karningul. Thank you, Farawayman. Thank you, Ribby. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you, Polsky, for getting rid of those bots for us. Elverg, Elviler, B Burgers, Joe Kozier. Always a good time. the Rant Cast. And Saturday, the plan is to do HeroQuest fans. So I know you guys got to go, but let's check real quick. Do we have somebody that we can raid? Anybody? Just
Raid?
lost my Twitch window.
And Kurgan, you said you're finishing up the Frozen Horror.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, the Frozen
Next
Horror.
Saturday?
Well, not that quick, probably. I'm thinking like July. Let's see, July 15th or July 22nd will probably be the last one.
Okay.
So yeah,
I will
you were in
most
the
likely be there.
first
So.
round. You were in the first round. You and PSK, Knucklehead Studio.
So
Yeah.
we'll attempt to be there, and yeah, the StrangeBus will make a return.
HeroQuest fans Discord. Oh, there's our signal. Okay. Yeah, and definitely check out the bus of Discord, the StrangeBus. Any of you guys have anything you want to promote as far as like
I mean,
YouTube?
you know me. I've been doing the Rant Cast with you, but yeah, I mean, I do streams usually every Friday and Saturday. I don't know if I'll be live on time tomorrow due to the trip, but I definitely will be streaming tomorrow. You'll catch a notification on my Discord if you're part of my Discord. If not, if you're following me, you'll get it there. But yeah, I'll probably be doing more Metro, and then I'll be doing Aliens Dark Descent.
Yeah, strangest bus burying. That's what Jacer called you. Thanks, Jacer. Yeah. But yeah, if you're looking for old RTS games, yeah, Emperor the Battle for Dune, Dune 2000, Dune the Battle for Arrakis, and I guess this new Dune Spice Wars, which I haven't played yet, but
It's supposed to be super hard. I'm kind of looking forward to it. So
yeah. And Dune Part 2 won't be coming out till what, October, November? Or is it December now? Keeps changing. I think it's
I thought it was November.
Oh, okay. Thanksgiving.
I could be wrong. I like glanced at. I have to recheck the trailer. So
Yeah, and Mystery Science Theater is making new episodes too. We didn't get to talk about that, but another time on the
snap.
Rant. All right, so I guess so play us out with Karl Casey at White Bat Audio. Thanks everybody. Have a great night, and
good night, everybody.
Happy 4th when it's time.
See ya.